So this is Baruch Fleischman here with the Tikkun Elevator Kolel, and as we set off in our journey for this Erev Shabbos, we're going to get into a little astrology today, Jewish astrology, a cosmic science. This is a book written by Yaakov Kronenberg. As I said before, I learned with Yaakov a few years. Now, astrology, we're learning Kabbalah, so uh, uh, Rabbi Yaakov really was not thrilled about teaching me astrology. I think because he's a professional and he wants to assume it that way rather than at a friend level. But I did learn a lot from him. But now's the time that we want to come over here and want to see some more of the ideas. And so before we begin, I want to make a little disclaimer here. We have to understand you're going to hear some ideas, and they're not to be taken just generally like a blanket idea. And you'll see when we start talking about the planets and their influence and some of the ideas that they have here, that they're very strong statements. But you have to understand, let's say, for example, that those of us who are interested in astrology, I was born in May. Actually, Yaakov Kronenberg's birthday is the 30th of April, and my birthday is the May the 1st. So we had a lot in terms of our sun signs. But Rabbi Yaakov always referred to me as a Capricorn and Aquarius. I was born right at the moment because he goes by the ascendant. So we have to understand that there are three principal focal points that astrologers use to begin with. One is with the sun sign. So I have a Taurus sun. So did he, as a Taurus sun. I have a Sagittarius moon. Okay, Sagittarius has different qualities than Taurus. And my rising sign is either Capricorn or Aquarius, because I was born right at the cusp of the two, which are very similar planets, as you'll understand. And we had some ideas, so not to make generalizations, because actually in every single chart of every person who was ever born are all of the planets. Now they're called, in Hebrew, they're called the Sheva Kothvei Lechet. So these are the 7 planets that orbit the sun, excluding the Earth. And because really, in a way, they're orbiting, where everything is orbiting around what? It's really orbiting around us, because that's really the focus point. Now, I'm going to read some of this, and I'll try to say, as he says, some strong things about the influence of the planets. Now, what we've been talking about is what was his question? Let me get back to the beginning for a second. Astrology according to Jewish law. So if you go to synagogues, Orthodox synagogues anyway, they may have stained glass windows, and in the stained glass windows, you're going to see the sun, the moon, the stars, and you're going to see all the names of the 7 Kothvei Lechet, and they're also tied to the tribes. But we live in a society and in a world where the Weltanschauung is really not looking at the secret things in life, the things that motivate us, but looking at others. Let's look at this. He has another source. He says the second source I would like to introduce is from a very ancient astrology book called the Breita of Shmuel HaKatan. So, which is a tradition from our sages, which was not included in the Mishnah, and so it's considered to be a Breita, or it's an outside source of Jewish law. And it comes from about 2,000 years ago. He wrote a book about astrology, and this book contains around 20 or 30 pages, with each page containing about 10 lines of the original writing, and the rest of the page is commentary by a later rabbi. So apparently, Rabbi Yaakov had access to this sefer. He lives in Jerusalem. That's a good place to find these Sfarim that are not so easy to find. So I'm going to read the last chapter of the book, which is the 9th chapter, and it says this, quote, "The explanation of the stars which rule the horoscope are," so you go ... So you have to remember that there are 2 bad malefic planets. Now this is what I'm saying, not to generalize too much, but because all of the planets interact with each other. That's what makes a personality, that's what makes a horoscope. So you have to remember that there are 2 bad malefic planets in astrology, which are what? Saturn and Mars. Now, Saturn is too cold and Mars is too hot. And there are 2 good they call it beneficent planets. He said Jupiter and Venus. Jupiter represents good moral behavior, and Venus has all the pleasure of this world. You also have the two lights, that's the sun and the moon. And then there's Mercury, which is neither good nor bad, but it depends on which planet it combines with. So now he gives you the idea that we understand that the planets, just like the world itself, is constantly interacting with us. They are moving, we are moving, the world is moving. Let's go on a little bit more. So the chapter begins with Saturn. Okay, now if you know a little bit about astrology, not to get too upset about this, is that Saturn rules over the planets of the signs of Aquarius and Capricorn. Capricorn and Aquarius, very different types of signs, but by the same token, underneath it, the power that energizes them is Saturn, the planet which is furthest from the Earth. So that's the planet. This is the coldest planet. So it says Saturn, which is known as Shabtai in Hebrew, rules over poverty, over destitution, destruction, illness, wounds, and over sinning. Believe this. Mars, which is hot, rules over the blood, like Rome, red blood, and on destruction and evil and animosity, competition and plagues, over iron and fire and water. Now he says Jupiter rules over life, peace, goodness and calmness, quietness, Torah, happiness, rejoicing, health, honor, and majesty. Venus rules over beauty and kindness, love and lust, infatuation and reproduction, the children of human beings and animals, and fruits of the ground, and fruits of trees. Mercury rules over wisdom and intelligence, understanding and knowledge, scientific knowledge, and is able to open or develop all sorts of ideas. This is Mercury, which is Virgo, which is Gemini, and to be able to think and understand all sorts of thoughts and all systems of art and writing and languages. Now, a little bit more. He says the sun rules over light and darkness, differentiating between day and night. So when it's there, it's day. When it's not there, but it's the sun, it's night. It rules over the counting of days and months. So we have 365 days of the year. We have 12 months of the year. And doing all kind of work and action using its light to see, traveling everywhere and anywhere using it. So he said he wants to bring in this, and we're gonna conclude in a minute. Let's see if we can get a little bit more out. He said, on a side note, we will in the future talk about three modern planets, which were known to the world from approximately the 1700s of our era onwards. We have the book called Sefer HaBrit, which discusses Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, where he mentioned the modern planets and discusses the reasons why the ancient sages did not talk about them, even though they were aware of them, but what we call in Hebrew, which are called the Sheva Kochvei Lechet, which are the planets of our solar system. So now let's see a little bit more. From now on, we will talk about the 7 planets mentioned by the sages, which after all are the planets which rule the 7 days of the week. So it turns out that planets and weeks go together. And anyway, anyway, the outer 3 planets rule different matters, such as so let us continue with the prize. So he wants to say these 3 planets, which are Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, which are way, way out there, they do have an effect because Hashem, the light of Hashem, shines through them as well. They are also in sync with us, but they're doing different because of the distance. It's different. The moon has the keys of the heaven and the earth, and is involved with the good and bad that happen. So now we get to the part in the source, which is the main purpose for mentioning all this now. And he says all this, and although the planets rule over the doing of both the bad and the good that happens on the earth. In other words, there is bad elements and good elements that shine on us. They do not have permission to instigate good or bad according to their own understanding. And this is the point that the Brisa makes, that the planets, according to Judaism, are just appointed to fill their task. They are agents of God. Okay, that's it. The shiur here in Yaakov Kronenberg. Rabbi Yaakov Kronenberg should be, but he's He's not going to paskin any shilas for you. This is Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Call.